Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 531. Great Acting. He has some things to ask, Captain? Danitz frowned as he watched Gairman Sparrow leave the room, unsure what his real motive was. What is this fellow really after? Money, riches? But he had the time to take away the heads of Steel Mavady and Blood Brambles Hendry to exchange for nearly £10,000 in bounty rewards. Yes, even after paying any commissions, it would still be £7,000 to £8,000. Yet he didn't do so. Moreover, he generously shared the spoils of war with me. This is very contradictory. When he first heard that I was blazing, his first reaction was to call me a £3,000 bounty. In Captain's words, this isn't scientific. Why would he deliberately give up the bounty? Unless he has a better way to claim it safely, or he had specially left it for someone. Yes. He had been prepared for the appearance of the mandated punishers. He has his own connections and information channels. This way, everything can be explained. There's also the possible existence of the demigod that killed Kilangos. There's a powerful and secretive organization behind Gairman Sparrow. Shocked by his own conjecture, Danitz instinctively tried to use his body language to express his feelings. But he forgot that his left arm was still fractured. He immediately grimaced in pain. This made him feel even more terrified. He didn't want his captain to meet such a dangerous and crazy fellow. He even suspected that Gairman Sparrow's real motive was his captain's £26,000 bounty. In a duel, that lunatic might not necessarily win against captain, and there's still the first mate, second mate, third mate, and a few bosuns. But he has a terrifying organization backing him. You want to hurt Captain? Over my dead body. Danitz puffed out his chest, raised his neck, and was filled with a stirring sense of self-sacrifice. He ran a hand through his hair, gave a long grunt, and said to himself, I'll make further observations. Perhaps Gairman Sparrow really only has questions that he wants answered. Subconsciously, he looked around and found both the flying carpet and the shadow cloak. They weren't missing. In other words, Gairman Sparrow left the things that belonged to me behind. Isn't he afraid that I'll take the opportunity to escape? Or did he steal my hair that makes it easy for divination? No, he's a crazy guy. Even if he wishes to use my hair, he would just walk over and extend his hand to pull one out. It's impossible for him to do it secretly. Right, there's a powerful and secretive organization behind him. Perhaps, at this moment, there are people from that organization secretly monitoring me. They're waiting for me to leave, waiting for me to seek out Captain. How insidious! Gairman Sparrow must have gone out on purpose. Danitz felt that he had grasped the truth of the matter thanks to his experience and wisdom. He paced back and forth before sitting back in the reclining chair. He then thought with a silent, mocking smile, I'm not leaving. I want to see what you can do. I will not bring danger to Captain. 3:15 in the afternoon, Saimim Island. This island was also a part of the Rorstad archipelago, but it was the furthest from the city of Generosity Byam. It took nearly 5 hours on a liner to reach it. On the way, Klein bought a suit with local characteristics and a small suitcase to replace the clothes he changed out of, for a total of 14 soli. They weren't even worth £1. It's really cheap. It's just change compared to a complete suit. Wearing pantaloons, a thick brown jacket, and a light brown cap, Klein disembarked from the liner with a native face that didn't stand out, and he entered some of the old ports on Saimim Island. He had spent time buying clothes and changing his appearance, causing him to miss the 9 o'clock ferry and be put in a situation where he could only take the ferry at 10. Thinking of the expenses he had to pay for this acting, he couldn't help but calculate his current financial situation. The faceless characteristic was sold for £3,825. The pirate bounties net me £3,000. Although I haven't received the £6,825, I can basically include it into my budget as long as Mr. Hangman doesn't get exposed. The leftover cash from Donna and Company's gratuity add up to £255 in bits and pieces. I found 26 pounds, 11 soldi, and 8 pence from Steele Mavady's body. Yes, there's still the 5 gold coins as reserves. I haven't spent much money recently, only spending slightly more than £1 in total. This is something to be happy about. With that, I'll have £7,110. Moreover, I still have the Nightmare Beyonder characteristic and the Murloc's bladder. They're still worth something. On second thought, I earned a £3,000 bounty alongside a Zombie Beyonder characteristic. The latter is worth about £3,000 to £5,000. That is to say, I earned about £7,000. This is only from Steele Mavady, Blood Brambles Hendry, and Squall. Besides, there was quite a lot of waste. Indeed, hunting pirates is quite a good job. It can administer justice, punish the evil, protect the weak and innocent, and also make me rich overnight. Klein subconsciously turned his head to the side, only to see that the color of the seawater was much clearer than that of Byam's. It was as if the seawater was a huge, green, sparkling gem, reflecting golden rays under the sunlight. Sure enough, it's not without reason that generations after generations of adventurers have gone out to sea to search for wealth. Even if I deduct the remnant spirituality of ancient wraiths, eyes from a 6-winged gargoyle, spring water from Sonia Island's golden spring, and other supplementary ingredients of a marionettist, the money I have left will be enough to allow me to buy a decent manor here, in Desi Bay, in the southern continent's colonies, and in the non-metropolitan areas. Lone's countryside is said to be very beautiful, and if it turns out that I'm really unable to return, I can consider settling down in a similar place. Yes, I still have a 10% stake in the Backlund Bike Company, and my future returns won't be low. With confidence, Klein straightened his back and thought about the future. After letting his thoughts wander, Klein began to think about the more realistic question, which was whether he should sell the Nightmare Beyonder characteristic, find an opportunity to return it to the Church of Evernight, or create a mystical item with it through an artisan. It depends on the situation. The ideal solution would be to sell it to the church. The martyr, Klein, who had taken 2 potions from the Nighthawks, thought with uncertainty. At the same time, he hoped that Little Sun would soon reach Sequence 7 and be qualified to gain clearance to the methods used to remove the mental corruption from a Beyonder characteristic. As for the matter of releasing the Priest of Light from the glove, he wasn't in a hurry. Little Sun had just received the potion formula for Sequence 7, so he had no need for it at the moment. He would have to wait for a long time, and the powers of a Priest of Light was very effective in dealing with a pirate like Admiral of Blood in a way that was far more potent than the Sun Brooch. As his thoughts slowly settled down, Klein entered the small port town. The place was basically filled with natives. Their skin was nearly bronze, and their black hair had slight, natural curls. Their bodies emitted a scent that was derived from prolonged contact with spices. After changing his appearance, and asking about Rain's situation and if there was any news of Went's death, Klein found a secluded corner. He wiped his face with his hand, turning his face into a tall, thin Went with rather distinct facial features. He carried his suitcase and circled around the town to its border. It was then that he saw the winery run by Rain's family. The girl with flaxen-colored hair could no longer be called a young girl. She had obviously matured a lot compared to what Went remembered. She was sweeping the entrance, and there was no one around. Phew! Klein took a deep breath and slowly let it out, feeling as though he was placed in a very difficult position. As a powerful keyboard warrior, he knew about theories like method acting and experimental acting, but he lacked further understanding. He could only try to guess at Went's mood and performance in this kind of scenario. Finally, he closed his eyes and walked over. Rain looked up when she heard footsteps, finally identifying the visitor. She opened her mouth slightly and let out a half-surprised exclamation before saying with a straight face, "Why are you suddenly back? Remember, you're just acting." Klein revealed a smile. "I came to bid you farewell." He spoke in a local dialect, with a somewhat nondescript BM accent. The language of the Rosted Archipelago was also derived from ancient Facesac and belonged to another variant. As a half-historian, Klein was able to master it easily, and it only took him a short time to master it. Farewell? Rain asked, slightly surprised. Klein turned his head, looked to the side, and smiled. I'm going to chase after a treasure trove, and I don't know when I'll be able to come back. When the time comes, I'll appear with a great deal of money. I'll buy a manor in the suburbs, plant some rubber trees, set up a vineyard, have my own mill, wine cellar, blacksmith shop, and let the air be filled with the scent of all kinds of spices. Then I'll buy a few slaves and hire some servants, just like those masters. Heh, but I'll still be short of one thing. He overcame his goosebumps that were about to form on his skin, and he turned to look Rain in the eye. I still lack a wife and a mistress for the manor. Rain, I like you. I wish to marry you. The reason I said it out loud today isn't to get an answer, but because I'm afraid that I would never have the chance to tell you again. After listening quietly, Rain suddenly scolded angrily. Went, you're a coward. This reaction isn't right. Klein deliberately revealed a surprised expression. Rain suppressed her voice and said, 3 years ago, 3 freaking years ago, I was already prepared to head to Byam with you. Yet, you didn't say anything in the end. You coward! You chicken! What's the use of telling me now? You're going to see soon, and you may never come back. The more she spoke, the more agitated she became. You've said it out loud and become happy. You have no regrets, but what about me? I'll have to constantly think about you returning and live on in pain? You selfish bastard! She waved the broom in her hand and swung it towards Went. Klein knew that the real Went would have hit the broom away, hug the girl, and tell her that he wasn't going out to sea again, but he couldn't do the same. He had to pretend to be chased away pathetically, running all the way to a nearby alley. There, he hit his head against the wall while silently cursing himself. It was 2F*** King awkward. This is 2F*** King awkward. Rain went back to the door, picked up a broom, and crouched down. Her face was ashen. It was unknown what she was thinking about. Vaguely, she heard a sound, and she fell asleep. After using the charm, Klein turned around and nudged Rain, who was sitting on the ground while leaning against the wall. Then he quickly left the area, hiding in the distance to peep at the results. Rain quickly woke up and realized that she had fallen asleep without knowing it. Everything that had happened just now appeared like a dream. She remained sitting there, motionless for quite a while. Suddenly, she lowered her head and let out a sharp curse that seemed to come from the depths of her throat. Went, you selfish bastard! Sigh. Klein, who felt a tiny sensation of digesting his potion, sighed, changed his appearance, and left the place. He would have to spend the night on Simeem Island, as there were no liners headed for Byam until the morning.